I was standing in my father's study when my sister rang. Not near the study. Not passing by it on the way to the kitchen. I mean, I was inside it, hands on the back of his leather chair, breathing in that smell of cedar and old money and the faint bite of his cologne that never fully left the room. My father, Richard Hale, was sitting 3 feet from me. Alive. Breathing. Reading the Wall Street Journal like he always did, as if the world's chaos was just another column he could skim and dismiss. He looked up when my phone buzzed, and I saw something in his eyes, something tight, expectant, almost grim, like he already knew who it was. My sister, Claudia. I answered. Hey. Her voice came out shaking in a way that sounded practiced. Like she'd rehearsed the tremble in front of a mirror. Ethan, she said, and she let the silence hang just long enough to make my stomach start writing its own obituary. It's Dad. I gripped the phone harder. I glanced at my father, and he was watching me now, not the paper, me. What about him? I asked. Claudia inhaled like she was about to perform grief. He passed this morning. The room didn't change, but I did. My skin went hot then cold. My brain tried to reconcile her words with the fact that my father was literally sitting there, right in front of me, alive enough to be annoyed at being interrupted. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. It felt like stepping off a dock and realizing the lake was concrete. Claudia pushed on. I'm so sorry. God, I don't even know how to say it. The attorneys came. There's a will. My father's jaw tightened, just a fraction. That's how he reacted to bad deals. Not with panic. With calculation. Claudia continued, voice soft as a knife. He left everything to me. My throat made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. Everything? The company, she said. The properties. The accounts. All of it. They said he wanted it clean. Clean. That word hit me harder than the rest. Because in the Hale family, clean never meant fair. It meant quiet. It meant no loose ends. No witnesses. I walked to the window, staring out at the snow-dusted yard like it might explain what was happening. I could hear the faint scratch of my father turning a page behind me, like he was still trying to keep the rhythm of normal life alive just to prove he could. I swallowed. Where are you right now? At my apartment, she said quickly. Too quickly. They told me not to drive. They said I should just stay put. I repeated. The attorneys, she said. Dad's people. Dad's people. That was another phrase I didn't like. My father had people the way other men had pets. Loyal when fed. Dangerous when ignored. I turned and looked at him. Richard Hale stared back at me, and there was no confusion in his face. No surprise. Just a calm, old anger, like someone had moved a piece on the board without permission. Claudia's voice softened into something almost tender. Ethan, I know this is hard. I know you probably feel what? I snapped before I could stop myself. That you finally got what you've been reaching for since you were 16? Silence. Then she did something that made my skin crawl. She sighed, like I was the difficult one. I didn't make this happen, she said. But it's done. And I'm trying to handle this like an adult. I closed my eyes. My father's chair creaked behind me. Claudia kept going. Look, I don't want a fight. I'll make sure you're taken care of. We can arrange something, maybe a house, a stipend, I repeated, tasting bile. Ethan, she said, sharper now, don't do this. Don't make me the villain when Dad made his choice. That's when my father spoke, quietly, from the chair behind me. Put her on speaker. I froze. Claudia said, "What?" My father nodded once, slow and deliberate, like he was approving a purchase. My hand shook as I tapped the button. A small beep, and suddenly Claudia was in the room with us, her voice carried by a device no bigger than a deck of cards, like that was all a family could be reduced to. "Claudia," my father said, calm as a man ordering dinner, "you're doing very well." On the other end, she went dead silent. I watched the color drain from my father's face, not fear, not guilt, just that cold, satisfied certainty of a man confirming what he already suspected. Claudia whispered, "Dad?" My father leaned back, crossed one ankle over the other, and said, still breathing. Still thinking. Still disappointed. Her breath hitched, and for the first time I heard real panic in her voice. This isn't funny." "It isn't," he said. "But it is useful." I couldn't speak. My mind was racing too fast to grab a thought and hold on to it. My father looked at me then, and in that look was something I hadn't felt since I was a kid, when had taught me how to throw a punch, how to shake a man's hand, how to never show fear first. A lesson. A command. A warning. He reached across the desk and slid a folder toward me. Thick. Legal paper. Tabs. Signatures. My father said, "Your sister thinks she won." "Which means she's already moving." Claudia's voice cracked. "Dad, listen, I can explain." "You can," he said. "But you won't. Not to me." He nodded toward the folder. To him. I opened it with trembling hands. The top page wasn't a will. It was a plan. Steps. Dates. Names. Accounts. Instructions. And at the bottom, in my father's handwriting, the handwriting I'd seen on birthday cards that felt like business memos, were 4 words that made my stomach drop. Keep her away. Forever. Claudia was crying now, but it sounded more like rage than grief. "You can't do this. You can't lock me out. I'm your daughter." My father's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You've been my daughter," he said, "and you've been my problem. Now you're going to be your own." Then he looked at me, and the warmth I wanted from him, some hint of love, or pride, never came. Just purpose. "Ethan," he said, "we're going to let her believe I'm dead." My mouth went dry. "Dad, that's necessary," he cut in. "Because she already told someone. And once a lie leaves the mouth, the only way to control it is to steer it." On speaker, Claudia sobbed, "Ethan, don't. Please. You don't know what you're doing." I stared at the folder, at the neat handwriting, at the legal structure of my father's revenge. And the worst part? I realized he hadn't just come up with this idea. Had been ready for it. Like had been waiting for the day his own daughter would try to bury him while he was still breathing. My father leaned forward slightly and said, almost gently, "Claudia, you're going to stay away from us. From my will. From my business. From my life." Her voice turned sharp with desperation. "Or what?" My father looked at me again, and I saw it, the truth of what he was asking me. Not just to protect him. To become him. He said, "Or you'll learn what it feels like to lose something you thought was already yours." I swallowed hard, staring at my father, alive, wealthy, dangerous in his calm. And I realized this wasn't going to be about inheritance. This was going to be about exile. Because the moment Claudia said he was dead, she'd already proven she was willing to kill him in the only way she knew how. By the time I hung up, the study felt smaller. Not because the room changed, oak shelves, framed oil paintings, the quiet ticking clock my mother had hated, but because I suddenly understood we were standing in the middle of something that could swallow us whole if we misstepped. My father, alive, breathing, billionaire business owner and all, didn't pace or curse or shout. He just reached for his coffee like this was another board meeting. Claudia called the attorneys, I said, more statement than question. He nodded once. Or someone using her name did. But yes. That machine is already moving. What machine? The one that starts when people think you're not watching, he said. The one that turns a living man into a legal corpse. I looked down at the folder again. The plan wasn't written like a rant. It was written like a blueprint, bulleted steps, contingencies, names of people I recognized from childhood and names I didn't. At the top, underlined twice, was the first instruction. Control the narrative. My father leaned back. If Claudia believes him dead, she'll move quickly. She'll try to secure the will, freeze access, get in front of the board, and lock you out by paperwork before you can even breathe. Why would she do that? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. My father's mouth tightened. Because she doesn't want my money. I blinked. Then what? She wants the story, he said. The victory. The proof she wasn't the mistake she's been running from her whole life. That landed in my chest heavier than I expected. Claudia had always been a tightrope walker, charming, bright, fragile in that dangerous way where fragility becomes a weapon. People rushed to protect her. She learned early that tears were a kind of currency. I sat down, suddenly exhausted. So what's the first move? My father slid the folder closer, his finger tapping a line. Public death. Private life. You can't fake your death, I said. That's criminal. He didn't flinch. We aren't faking a death certificate. We aren't filing legal documents saying I'm deceased. Then what are we doing? We're letting Claudia's lie stand, he said. And we're shaping what happens around it. In public, I'm gone. In private, I'm protected. I stared at him. Protected from who? Claudia? My father's eyes went flat. Claudia is the face. The hands behind her, those are what worry me. I felt a coldness rise up my spine. You think she's working with someone? He didn't answer directly. He didn't have to. Then he said something that made my mouth go dry. We need a funeral. I laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. A funeral. For you. While you're sitting right here. Yes, he said. Because funerals aren't for the dead, Ethan. They're for the living. They're where people reveal what they want. I wanted to argue. I wanted to throw the folder at him and tell him this wasn't normal, this wasn't family, this wasn't sane. But I didn't. Because I'd seen what Claudia could do when she smelled leverage. And because I'd seen what my father could do when he felt betrayed. He turned the page. There were names under a heading labeled witnesses we can trust. Some were expected. Our longtime family doctor, our head of security, my father's private attorney, Graves, the man who always smelled like mint and menace. But one name stopped me. Mara Hale. My mother. She'd been dead 8 years. Heart failure. Quiet, unglamorous, the way good women sometimes exit a bad story. I looked up at my father. Why is Mom's name here? He stared at the page like it was a wound. Because Claudia never believed it was heart failure. My throat tightened. What are you talking about? My father's voice lowered. She blamed me. Always has. She told people I worked her into the ground. That I broke her. I remembered little flashes, Claudia at the hospital, mascara streaking, yelling at nurses. Claudia at the cemetery, gripping my arm too hard, whispering, he did this. Back then, I'd dismissed it as grief. Now it felt like a rehearsal. I rubbed my face. So the funeral is bait. It's a stage, my father corrected. And Claudia loves stages. He stood up, walked to the bookshelf, and pulled out a slim black notebook. He set it down between us like a loaded gun. Inside that, he said, is what the will actually says. I stared. That's it? That's the will? It's a copy, he said. The real one is locked where Claudia will never find it. But this copy, this is what matters right now. My hands hovered over it, then pulled back. Why show me? Because you're going to be the public executor, he said. Not Claudia. You. My heart hammered. Me? Why not Graves? Because Graves is predictable. And Claudia knows him. She's played him before. My father's eyes narrowed. But she doesn't know you the way she thinks she does. I swallowed. I'm not like you. No, he said, and for the first time there was something close to regret in his voice. You're softer. That stung, but it was also true. Then he added, that's why she'll underestimate you. And that's why you're useful. Useful. The word sat between us like a stain. He opened the notebook. The handwriting was his, clean and angular. I expected to see dollar amounts, percentages, trusts. Instead, the first line hit me like a slap. Claudia receives nothing directly. I exhaled. So she wasn't lying. She was guessing. She was claiming, he said. It's different. People claim what they want before they prove it's theirs. I flipped the page, eyes scanning. Most of the estate went into a foundation, my mother's name. Some went to me. Some went to employees, long-term executives, even the janitor who'd been with Dad since the company's first warehouse. Claudia's name showed up one more time, buried deep. Conditional benefit. Only if she signs a permanent non-interference agreement and accepts supervised contact limitations. I looked up. You were already trying to keep her away. My father didn't deny it. I was trying to keep her from burning down what I built just to feel warm. I sat back, dizzy. So what's the point of all this? If the will blocks her, my father held my gaze. Because the will doesn't matter if she gets to it first. What do you mean? He pointed to another page in the folder. Emergency injunction risk. If Claudia convinces a judge you're unfit, or that I was manipulated, she can freeze distribution, he said. She can tie it up in court for years. In those years, she can poison the board. Drain accounts through legal fees. Drive out loyal people. I felt sick. And you think she'll try? I know she will, he said. She already started. She called you. She claimed I was dead. She's counting on you panicking, rushing, making mistakes. I stared at the folder again. Step 2 was circled. Move Richard to safe house. No digital trace. I looked up slowly. You're leaving the mansion. My father nodded. Tonight. My stomach turned. Where? He didn't answer. Instead, he asked, are you in this, Ethan? It wasn't a gentle question. It wasn't father to son. It was man to man, the way you ask before you walk into a storm. I thought about Claudia's voice. He left everything to me, the certainty, the entitlement, the way she tried to offer me a stipend like I was a dog she'd toss scraps to. Then I thought about my father sitting across from me, alive, eyes hard, asking me to help him erase himself from the world without technically dying. And I realized the choice wasn't between right and wrong. It was between family peace and family survival. I nodded once. I'm in. My father exhaled like he'd been holding air in his lungs for years. Then he said, "Good." He reached for the phone on the desk, an old landline he kept for reasons I never questioned, and dialed a number from memory. When the line picked up, he didn't waste words. "It's time," he said. She made her move. He listened, eyes on me. Then, quietly, he said the sentence that told me the next few days would change us forever. "Prepare the funeral." The news broke before sunrise. I didn't release it. My father didn't. Graves didn't either. Which told me everything I needed to know. By 7 a.m., my phone was vibrating itself off the nightstand, board members, distant cousins, reporters pretending they were old friends. The headline was clean and merciless. Billionaire industrialist Richard Hale dies suddenly at home, cause unspecified. Age emphasized. Legacy celebrated. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the screen, while my father, very much alive, watched from the armchair in the corner of the safe house living room, hands folded like a man attending his own wake. "They moved fast," I said. He nodded. "They wanted to own the first version." I looked up. "They?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The funeral was scheduled for 3 days later. Private estate. Invitation only. Family and close associates. Which was a lie. Funerals like this aren't about closeness. They're about access. We played our part. I wore the suit my father had bought me 10 years earlier, the one he said made me look responsible enough to trust with something valuable. I practiced looking hollow. Slow steps. Slight delay before answering questions. Grief, but controlled. People like their airs broken, but not unstable. The casket was closed. Mahogany. Heavy enough to suggest permanence. Empty enough to carry lies without complaint. When I arrived, the air smelled like winter grass and money. Security everywhere, but not ours. That was the first red flag. I spotted Claudia before she spotted me. She stood near the front, black dress tailored to fit grief like couture. Hair perfect. Eyes red, but dry. She wasn't mourning. She was hosting. Hands on shoulders. Soft nods. Low voice. She looked relieved. When she finally turned and saw me, her face shifted, just for half a second. Not sadness. Calculation. She crossed the distance between us with open arms. "Ethan," she whispered into my shoulder, hugging me like a photograph. "I'm so glad you're here." As if ID had a choice. I pulled back. "You look composed." She smiled faintly. "Someone has to be." That someone, apparently, was her. She guided me toward the front row like she owned the place. People watched. Took notes with their eyes. This was a performance, and Claudia knew exactly where the spotlight was. Halfway down the aisle, she leaned in. "We need to talk." "After." "About what?" I asked. "The will," she said softly. "And how we move forward. Together. Together." The word felt borrowed. The service began. Speeches were given by men who'd once needed my father's approval to breathe. They spoke about vision, integrity, discipline. None of them mentioned love. Claudia dabbed at her eyes at the right moments. She bowed her head during the prayer. She even reached out and squeezed my hand once, long enough for people to notice. I didn't squeeze back. When it was over, the real work started. Clusters formed. Deals were floated in whispers. Condolences turned into questions disguised as concern. "How are you holding up?" Meant who's in charge now? Have you thought about the transition? Meant can I get what I want? Claudia moved like a queen through it all. Then I saw him. A man I didn't recognize, standing just beyond the tent line, talking to Claudia's attorney. Not Graves. This one was younger. Leaner. Eyes that never stopped moving. They exchanged a folder. Not thick. Not legal. Thin. Temporary. I drifted closer, pretending to greet an old executive. The man leaned in to Claudia. The injunction can be filed tomorrow. There it was. I felt my chest tighten. Claudia nodded once. Good. Before he gets ideas. He glanced in my direction. His eyes lingered half a second too long. She followed his gaze. Our eyes met. For the first time that day, Claudia looked nervous. Just a flicker, but I saw it. Later, as the crowd thinned and the sun dipped low, Claudia cornered me near the casket. I didn't want this, she said quietly. But now that it's happened, we need to be smart. Smart how? She lowered her voice. You don't want to fight me, Ethan. It'll be expensive. Ugly. Public. I met her gaze. You already made it that way. Her jaw tightened. Dad trusted me. I leaned in just enough that only she could hear me. You told the world he was dead before you knew. Her eyes flashed. Someone had to act. There it is, I said. You didn't wait because you couldn't. You waited because you didn't want to. Her lips parted, then closed. She straightened. I'll have my attorney contact you. He already did, I said. That threw her. I stepped back, raising my voice just enough for nearby ears. Thank you for taking care of things, I said. I know Dad would have wanted transparency. Her smile returned, stiff and dangerous. As she walked away, my phone buzzed. A single message from an unlisted number. She brought help. You were right. I looked across the lawn, past the mourners, past the lies. And for the first time since this started, I understood the real danger. Claudia wasn't just trying to inherit. She was trying to erase. And next time, she wouldn't wait for a funeral. The injunction hit the next morning. Not quietly. Not respectfully. It landed like a boot through a door. My phone lit up before I'd finished my coffee, 3 board members, Graves, and a reporter who pretended he just wanted clarity. Claudia hadn't wasted a second. She'd gone straight for the throat, claiming emergency authority, alleging concerns about my emotional stability after Dad's sudden passing. She was painting me as fragile. Unfit. A placeholder she needed to remove. I drove to the safe house with my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. My father was seated at the small kitchen table when I arrived, jacket on, tie knotted, ready for a day the world thought he'd never see. They filed? He asked. Yes. He nodded like he'd expected it. Good. Good? I snapped. She's freezing accounts. Locking access. Questioning my role. And revealing herself, he said calmly. Which is what we needed. I dropped the papers on the table. She's trying to bury us alive. My father looked at the documents, then at me. No. She's trying to bury you. That stopped me. She thinks I'm gone, he continued. Which means you're the obstacle. And that makes you the test. I ran a hand through my hair. So what's the move? We stay hidden while she dismantles everything? He stood up slowly, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain back just enough to look out. I didn't build my life to end as a rumor, he said. I felt a chill. What are you saying? He turned. There was something different in his eyes now. Not anger. Resolve. I'm done being dead. My stomach dropped. Dad, if you show up now, she loses control of the story, he finished. And people like your sister? They panic when the script changes. This isn't a movie, I said. There are consequences. He met my gaze. There always were. Graves called an hour later. Voice tight. Controlled. She's pushing for a board vote tomorrow, he said. Temporary authority. If she gets it, she won't, my father said, leaning close to the phone. Graves went silent. Then. Sir, with respect, is this wise? No, my father said. But it's necessary. The plan shifted. No press conference. No dramatic reveal. Just one board meeting. One room. One door opening. I sat at the long table the next day, watching familiar faces avoid my eyes. Some looked guilty. Others impatient. A few looked relieved, as if the mess would resolve itself if they just waited long enough. Claudia arrived last. Black suit. Confident stride. That same hosting smile from the funeral. She didn't look at me when she took her seat. The emergency injunction stands, she began. Given recent instability, I believe, the door opened. Not slammed. Not announced. Just opened. My father walked in. Alive. Whole. Silent. The room didn't explode. It collapsed. Chairs scraped. Someone swore under their breath. One man actually stood, like he'd seen a ghost and needed to get closer just to prove it wasn't one. Claudia turned slowly. Her face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. Dad? She whispered. My father stopped behind my chair. I don't like interruptions, he said evenly. But I dislike theft more. Her mouth opened. Closed. This is impossible, she stammered. You're alive, he said. Which you knew was a possibility when you moved early. The board erupted into questions. Graves raised a hand. Gentlemen, ladies, please. My father stepped forward. I won't stay long. I just came to correct the record. He looked at Claudia. You told people I was dead, he said. You filed motions in my absence. You attempted to remove your brother under the pretense of care. Her voice shook. I was protecting the company. No, he said. You were protecting yourself. She stood abruptly. You don't get to do this. You can't vanish and come back when it suits you. I didn't vanish, he said quietly. I stepped aside to see who would rush my grave. Silence. Then he turned to the board. Withdraw the injunction. Reinstate Ethan. Effective immediately. No one argued. Because power, real power, has weight. And they felt it. Claudia sank back into her chair, shaking. As the meeting adjourned, she cornered me near the door. You let him do this, she hissed. I looked at her, really looked. At the sister I'd defended my whole life. The girl who cried when she didn't get her way. The woman who tried to bury her father before the dirt was ready. No, I said. You did. She laughed, brittle. You think this is over? I shook my head. No. I think it's decided. Behind me, my father waited. And for the first time, I realized something heavy and final. He hadn't come back to save the company. Had come back to choose who stayed in his life and who didn't. The lawyers called it a resolution. That word never sat right with me. Because nothing about the weeks that followed felt resolved. They felt amputated, clean cuts, yes, but cuts all the same. Claudia didn't scream after the board meeting. She didn't cry. She didn't even plead. She went quiet. That scared me more than any outburst ever could. The injunction was withdrawn. My authority was restored. Accounts unfroze. The company exhaled like a body pulled back from the edge of drowning. On paper, we'd won. But victories inside families don't celebrate themselves. They sit in the corners and wait. My father didn't return to the mansion. Not right away. He said the house felt too informed, like the walls had already chosen sides. We stayed in the safe house longer than planned, eating simple meals, talking less than we used to. He aged there. Not visibly. Not dramatically. But I could feel it, the weight of having seen his own daughter reach for the knife while his back was turned. One evening, he handed me another folder. Thinner than the others. "This is the final amendment," he said. I opened it slowly. Claudia's name was still there. But it had changed. No inheritance. No conditions. No future leverage. Just one clause. All contact prohibited unless initiated by Richard Hale himself. I looked up. "You're cutting her off completely." He nodded. "I already lost her." "That's not the same thing." He met my eyes. "It is when the loss becomes intentional." I wanted to argue. To remind him of childhood memories, Christmas mornings, shared jokes, the sister who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during long drives. But none of that would bring her back. Because the woman Claudia had become wasn't an accident. She was a choice, made slowly, reinforced daily. And my father was finally choosing himself. The confrontation came a week later. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just a knock at the door. I opened it. Claudia stood there alone. No attorney. No entourage. No performance. She looked smaller. Not broken, just stripped of armor. "I won't stay long," she said. My father appeared behind me. She looked at him, eyes filling. "You didn't even call." He didn't soften. "You didn't even wait." Silence stretched between them, heavy with every unspoken year. She swallowed. "I thought if I moved first, if I proved I could handle it, you'd finally respect me." My father's voice dropped. "I respected you when you told the truth." Her face crumpled. "You never trusted me." "That's because you taught me not to," he said. She turned to me then. "You could have stopped this." I held her gaze. "I did. I stopped it from becoming worse." She laughed weakly. "You always were the good one." "No," I said quietly. "I was just the one who waited." She wiped her face, then straightened. Pride flickered, familiar, stubborn. "So that's it?" she asked. "I'm exiled." My father answered before I could. "You're free." She stared at him like had spoken another language. Then she nodded once, sharp and final, and walked away without another word. I watched until her car disappeared down the road. I didn't follow. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. Not because you don't love what's behind them, but because you finally understand what it costs to keep them open. Months passed. The company stabilized. The world forgot the scare. My father slowly re-entered public life, not as the invincible titan he once was, but as a man who'd learned something late and paid for it in blood he couldn't get back. One night, we sat by the fire, real fire, not metaphor, and he said something I'll carry the rest of my life. I mistook control for strength, he said. And I taught her to do the same. I didn't respond. There was nothing to fix that truth. When he went inside, I stayed out longer, listening to the crackle, thinking about family and inheritance and the stories we tell ourselves to justify taking more than we need. Hey, race the thing no one tells you. Strength isn't winning the war. It's knowing when to end it, even if the ending hurts more than the fight. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is stop pretending love can survive everything and choose the quiet that comes after letting go.